Now, the absence of metropolitan centers, the jungle terrain, and the various aspects of the culture of the people of the Northeast have led to an image of the people being somewhat uncivilized. During the British Raj, the colonizers sought to develop the Northeast with their ideas of urbanization. And they also sought to safeguard certain areas with inner line permits and certain borders. Post independence, too, sadly, this is considered progress for the region. But this is exactly what this paper seeks to problematize. The paper seeks to assert that the traditional lifestyles of the people of the region are in sync with the conditions of the land that they inhabit, which modern development is absolutely not. And that shows that they are in fact quite civilized if we look at them with their gaze and not an outsider's gaze, right? Their lifestyle, their traditions are quite scientific. If we just can stop associating everything with the Western high modern science. Now, the primary texts, as I've already mentioned, are these two particular novels by Pariyat and by Kire. Now, before coming to the questions and objectives, so the methods and methodology, as I've already spoken, it's a textual analysis, and while doing it, I will be using the ideas of the book Seeing Like a State that was written by James C. Scott. So he is basically trying to assert this exact thing, that the state always tries to control a particular so-called wild, physical space. And while trying to do so, while trying to make an urban space there, it always uses the high modern science, which is always Western, which is European, right? And it doesn't take into account the traditional know-hows, which are actually more in tandem with nature and more sensible, to say, in that particular physical space. Now, in the novel, Everything the Light Touches, the primary character Shai, she moves from Delhi to Shillong and then from Shillong to this village called Maumalang. All right. So there is a travel through space, and it also seems like a particular time travel because Delhi is, of course, the capitalist stronghold with that sort of a lifestyle. And then there is Shillong, which is trying to adopt that lifestyle. And then there is Maumalang, a village which is still set in its traditional Khasi lifestyle ways, right? Now, the lifestyle at Maumalang, right, that is very much in tandem with nature. Today, the things that the parliament is talking about, giving Northeast a separate time zone, for optimum daylight utilization, that is already being done in the lifestyle at Maumalang. Then there are their nature-related practices. So there is this beautiful practice that is written about in the book, that when someone goes to cut a particular tree for their requirements, for any sort of requirements, they offer a betel leaf and an areca nut to the forest, right? So of course that doesn't help another tree to grow immediately. Of course, for that you need to plant the tree. But then why do they do that? What is the logic behind it? The logic behind it is offering something back, and there is a character explains it very beautifully that when we offer something back, we also take in control. We do not take uncontrollably. So that's such a beautiful, beautiful logic, from a community that was considered by the, let's say, colonizers to be not at par with their, their intellectual prowess. Then there is the question of land owning, right? So it is mentioned in the novel that people, when they come from outside, they try to own the land. The land is theirs. But in those places, the people belong to the land. So there is no question of land owning because they just clear another plot of land for their jhum cultivation next particular year. Then there is the question of mining. People from outside come to mine their resources, right? So that creates an ecological imbalance in those fragile areas, right? Whereas from eons, these people have been living in harmony with nature. And that is exactly how, they have remained healthy and they have remained, satisfied. Even in the novel, The Sky is My Father, that's my second novel, Edward Gate may have called the Naga tribes rude tribes, meaning savage, but society and community very much existed amongst the Angamis. There was a village nation sort of a concept. And now, in this particular concept, so these various villages sometimes used to war with each other. Now, roads might be a good thing that the British started to build, undeniably, but they would be a good thing for the modern capitalist Indian nation or world where connectivity is very important. But for societies who are functioning well enough as it is, they are communicating with the people they need to communicate, and they have all the resources that they need to have a proper lifestyle, without much greed. So it makes no sense to force connectivity on them. What job do they have connecting with the large wide world? Their worldview itself only encapsulates the Naga nation. So as such, building roads and cutting hills just takes away their natural defense for the martial tribes. Now look at the word usage here. I have called them the martial tribes, not the warlike tribes, because one needs to understand that these are not savages who are just warring for the sake of warring. Even in their wars there was logic, there was a particular ethos, there was morality as to how one should war and why one should war, right? Now even concepts such as the concept of Jenna, the concept of chicken cutting ritual for future predictions, sacrifice rituals, non-clean spaces and spirit realms, whether we understand those or not, right? Of course, there can be more and more research, trying to understand those properly. But whether we understand those or not, because of our colonial education, which has remained till date, one thing we have to admit is that these particular things showcase a society of great discipline, contrary to the image of barbarism. Because it shows these characters in this novel who follow Jenna very, very strictly. They do not even look at visitors to their homes. So that is immense discipline. The only difference that one observes in these two particular novels, one speaking about the Khasi Hills and one about the Angami Hills, is that though the gaze of this particular novel, Sky is My Father, written by Easterin Kire, which is focusing on the Angami Hills, the gaze of this novel seems to be one of acceptance towards Christianity. That is the only departure one sees. Otherwise, there is a tendency to establish the fact that the Khasis and Angamis were not uncivilized barbarians roving the hills for no reason, right? Even before the white man's advent, they had a society, they had a community, they had education, they had industry, they had agriculture, and were living good lives. So we really need to reconceptualize civilization in that terms, and these particular works really help us do that. Thank you so much.